Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to bring you a review of a cycling game that's relatively new, that has been getting rave reviews elsewhere, and I couldn't help but pick it up because I have several friends who are into biking and cycling. I am not, although my son certainly is, having spent a lot of his allowance money on an entry-level bike that's a lot fancier than the $50 job I got from Walmart. And yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to bikes, it turns out. Yeah. Anyway, the game is Flamme Rouge, or whatever you call it. Flamme Rouge? It's French for red flag. That much I know because I'm a learned man and I read the manual, the 4-page manual. Anyway, Flamme Rouge is a cycling game where you are taking two of your cyclists. You get a sprinter and a roller, and the idea is to, as any racing game should, go from start to the finish line without losing. Anyway, let's take a look and see what it plays like. All right, so we begin with our first playthrough. Now you'll notice that there are 3 placards for 3 cyclists and 3 cyclists. In your movement phase, or in the phases, the original phase, the first phase we're going to play is the energy phase. Now each player is going to take 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, choose one, and play it face down. The rest go face up underneath. They're called recycling. You know, get it, recycling. And each of the players gets to choose which of their cyclists they're going to actually move. I'm going to fake it here and put that there. 1, 2, 3. Pretend I was really, really interested in my choices. Finally, offline, I'm going to move let's move these here a little closer. So, I take 4. I look at my rider, who is blue, over here, and I'm like, what's going to happen? I'm just going to pick one. There we go. And these 3 goes back. Alright, whoa. Play a card and recycle the rest. Now, we do the same thing, but for the other rider. So in this case, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go, what do I want to do? Almost certainly I want... I'm going to take this one. And then these get recycled face up underneath in the deck. And answer the question that would inevitably follow, is that once you get to only the face-up cards left in the deck, then you can shuffle it and recycle and reshuffle it and turn it into a draw deck again. I'm going to do this one. Okay, these go face-up underneath. Finally, we go here and take 4 cards. Choose which one that we want to use. Face down. Face up, and that's it. That's the energy phase. So, what that means is we go on to the movement phase. Now, we reveal all of the cards, and the player who is farthest ahead goes first. That would be red, because as you'll notice, red has a 9, a 4. He's ahead, so he gets to start. So, we're going to move the sprinter. That's this one back here, 9 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. I mean, that's a good thing, right? I mean, why wouldn't you use a 9 if you had it? Certainly there could be no drawback to that. Then we reveal 4s and 4. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, and I forgot. I mean, in an empty spot, you always go to the right. The right is the default. It's the tiebreaker for everything. Whatever. It's the rightmost segment of each spot. Then we do the next one. We'll do blue. Blue goes forward on the S 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 4 for this rider. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's nice and handy. And if you are blocked, if there's ever 2 in a row, you can't move past. You can't land on them. You have to move backwards. You can move through them. But if you're moving and you actually would land on a filled space, you have to go back to the most closest of the rear spaces that's as far as you can, but not farther. Finally here, our S rider moves 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look at that. Did I plan that well or what? Wow. All right, and this is the kicker. These cards are out of the game. So why would I not want to use that 9? Well, here's an interesting thought. Because I never see it again in each, and there's only 3 9s, so I got to be careful when I use them. I might have needed a 9 later to move ahead of the pack, but we're just not going to know, are we? For now, I'm just going to go ahead and toss these aside. But anyway, they're out of the game. You don't get to use them anymore. Life is sadness, etc., etc. Now we apply slipstream. Now in this case, we don't have a slipstream example. Maybe in our next turn we will. Because everybody's all in a row. How cool is that? Finally, we assign exhaustion cards. If you have a rider, a cyclist, who has an empty space in front of it, they're getting wind resistance. You have to give them an exhaustion card. What is an exhaustion card? Well, this is an S. So I'm going to grab him. Basically, it's just a low-cost card. I mean, it's a low-movement card. So you're going to add this, recycle this to the bottom of your deck face up, and it's going to come back over time and kind of haunt you a little per se, and that you might not have as good of movement options if you accrue a lot of fatigue. So we're going to go ahead and put that here, and then that's that. Then we start the next round. So the next round we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and just set this up quickly so you don't need to watch it. Alright, so we're back, and I have laid out the cards the way that I want them. Pretend that I did that part of the turn. It's not the most exciting thing to watch, although obviously it will be a pretty exciting element of play when you're trying to figure out how you want to position your cyclists. In this case, red again is in the lead. Goes first. This is pretty simple. 4 for both of the riders. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, then we're going to move green. Green moves the S rider 3. 1, 2, 3. Look at that. Locked. And the R rider 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, how do you do that? And finally, blue. Blue here is getting a little gutsy. It's going to use its S and move this up 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now that's blocked. And then a 6 for its R rider. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's blocked, so it has to go back 1 space to the right. All right. And of course, you're in yourself. Right. All right. So that is that for this particular phase of movement. Now we apply slipstream, and this is where it gets interesting for slipstream. One of the things that you're going to do is you go from the back to the front. If your rider is exactly has 1 space of distance between these two, it is slipstreaming. It's going behind this guy and using this guy for this guy's wind resistance and drafting behind it. And so back to front, you move each pack. This is a pack, that's a pack, that's a pack. Any cluster of adjacent cyclists are considered a pack. And so he's going to move up 1 space. Yay, look at that. Now we're going to evaluate this pack, even including the cyclist that was already here. And we're going to go, is this more? Oh yeah. So it moves up 1. It moves up 1. And look at that. Now we've got a little bit closer. Looks like no one's too far behind. And then finally we assign exhaustion cards. In this case, green's R rider is going to have an exhaustion card given to it. And this is how it goes. We play through these, and you're playing through all of the course all the way to the end. The winner is whichever rider gets to the end first wins. If everybody during the turn gets to the finish line, or more than a few, then it goes by whatever distance farthest, whoever has the farthest distance. If that doesn't work, then whoever's on the right wins. So pretty much no way to not have have a winner in this regard. And that's basically a simple example of Flamme Rouge. Now, in the advanced game, there are different rules about what you are and are allowed to do on these track components. You'll know some of these are red and some are blue. In other words, uphill, downhill. And those bring some added complexity, and actually it does tend to make the routes that you take a little more strategic. When you're using the advanced route, whereas if you use the simple route, it doesn't. You're just going around the track, and your cards are really the consummate gameplay trigger factor there. But in this case, the additional rules they're okay. I mean, that's, you have to think of it. You know, gamers are gonna get it just fine. But if you wanted to eliminate that and just have it go purely on the card play, you can do that too for people who are just picking up the game or might want a more casual and streamlined experience. All right, well, that's it for Flamme Rouge. Let's go into my final review comments and see if this game is worth it or if it should be recycled. So in the larger scheme of things, Flamme Rouge could theoretically be described as just another kind of racing game in similar vein to others with an eye on simplicity. But I think there are some subtleties, despite the simple mechanics, that really flesh out cycling in a very meaningful and significant and distinctive way. For example, there's a lot of racing games for various motifs, mostly in the car racing world. There's the Thunder Alley from GM Team Games, which is more simulation, although it has some similarities to this. Formula D is the classic car racing game, which handles differently in that it's compartmentally luck driven. You switch gears, you roll higher dice with a higher chance of moving faster, but at the risk of crashing if they're in turns and stuff. More thematic to fast, high-speed racing. There's also automobiles, from a different company, AEG, that is kind of an odd juxtaposition of cube collection, as it were, and racing and such. So where does Flamme Rouge fit into all this? Well, it is I would call it a gateway game, because it is a fantastic introduction to to a game that straddles simple roll and move, although it's not roll and move, gameplay with an eye on some thought-provoking subtlety to how you actually win in Flamme Rouge. Part of it's the catch-up mechanism, the rubber banding, so to speak, when you're doing the drafting, the slipstream kind of effect, because it changes how you want to play the game, in that you can kind of count on, if you move just right, you can use. It's really a resource management game in some ways. You're not using the luck. You don't have dice, so it's not like an unlimited amount of possibilities. You have, for each of your cyclists, the roller and the speeder, a finite number of possible actions, and many of those are middle of the road, and you have your, as I showed in one of the first examples, your high speed, blast out of the gates. But once it's done, it's done. You don't get to reuse that again, and so you really are managing your resources. At what point do you want to break away? You do it too early, and you've used that card up, and you've also all but guaranteed that you're going to get fatigue cards, which are low movement. And so you could wind up being utterly exhausted halfway through the race, or maybe a little halfway through, and wind up getting caught up and passed. That's a choice you have to make. There's a lot of real tangible jockeying that goes on here. And with the slipstreaming, you do want to go, hey, if I'm in this pack, and this pack happens to just get just right behind other people, I'm going to move along with you. I'm going to use your energetic cards to drive me without me having to use a higher energetic card that I'm going to wind up not ever getting to use again. That is really impressive, and it's so well infused into the game in such a simple way that it's not something you're going to have to read an entire rule sheet and understand the flow charts of what you should or shouldn't do, or in what conditions you handle this or that. Everything is simple but elegant. I can completely see why this is being received as well as it is. Um, the nature of it, the simple version of the game, honestly, that track could be just a straight track. It could just be a big long like spreadsheet of spaces if you wanted to. If you're using the simple rules, which I did and which I was describing, but it is nice to be able to look and see the different configuration of tracks, and it saves on table space. Nobody has a table 20 feet long usually. But once you get into the other mode, add the advanced mode, then you are getting even more tricky, and then the terrain starts to actually matter a little bit more, because the advanced variant, where you have different rules for as you're climbing up a mountain and as you're going down, and as far as what you can do, how you can maneuver, that adds much more of a strategic feel to it, and that will appeal more to the gamer's gamer type of folks. So without reservation, Flamme Rouge should be in anyone's collection that likes even the hint of the style of this. Someone who likes cycling and likes an occasional board game, this is a no-brainer. Pick it up. Just go grab it. It's great. Great pieces, great components, great setup. You can't go wrong. So once again, thanks for joining me on Harebrained Reviews, and we will see you next time on Harebrained Games.